Hello YouTube, welcome to another anime review. Despite my ever-growing to-watch list, there are still times I find myself delving into something I've never even heard of. That was the case here. N Masques actually came out pretty recently, in the fall of 2015, within the time since I started paying attention to what comes out each anime season, yet I don't recall hearing anyone talk about it, so I figured I'd take a look for myself. This review will contain spoilers, but only for the first 3 episodes. N Masques is the story of Yotaro, a knight in a modern-day guild. He suffers from what he calls white knight syndrome. Basically, his training is so ingrained within him that whenever he sees or hears someone in danger, usually a young girl, he can't stop himself from jumping into action and becoming their knight in shining armor. This is how he meets Makio, a young girl who's obsessed with the idea of heroes and longs to become one herself. Yotaro saves her during one of her training sessions. However, Yotaro isn't thrilled with his situation. He's actually thinking of resigning as a knight, so whenever he goes into hero mode, he wears a mask. He ends up in Makio's hometown because he's run away from the island where knights are trained, and he didn't plan this out very well. The next time Makio meets him, all she sees is a hungry, pathetic-looking teenage boy moping at the edge of the playground. She doesn't recognize her hero without his mask, cape, and oversized lance, but she invites him home for dinner. It's at this point that we learn that Makio is the only child of a very wealthy man, and she lives alone in her enormous mansion. Even the maids are forbidden from growing too close to her. Presumably for their own safety, but honestly this is never explained very well. Anyway, when Yotaro learns of this, he decides he can't in good conscience leave her alone here. And this was a refreshing bout of common sense to me, something that's not always super prevalent in anime. For one, I'd like to think any good person would come to this same conclusion and keep Makio company, but it really fits with Yotaro's principles as a knight, which we've already established he's kind of at the mercy of. But it also explains Makio's obsession with heroes and the knight who saved her. She's not just another little anime girl worshipping an older brother figure. She's understandably lonely, and her desire for a proper family drives most of this story. And she gets something of a family. Yotaro has a few friends who've been tracking him ever since he ran away, and now that he's staying put, they finally catch up. There's Alice, his squire or knight in training. Shirohime is his horse or loyal steed. And then there's Yuriko, who is easily my favorite character. Plainly put, she's the badass of the group. She's Yotaro's heavy-handed maid and is responsible for overseeing his training. Yotaro blames her for his white knight syndrome. She quickly dismisses every other maid working for Makio, and the 3 of them move in too. Even up through episode 2, I started to have some really high expectations for this show. Yotaro decides to find Makio's father and confront him about why he makes his daughter live this way. He won't even let her attend school, and like I said, her father's motives are never fully explained, but it is probably safe to say that it's for her safety, as she is soon, predictably, kidnapped. Meanwhile, Yotaro learns that her father's head of security is a man named Kangoji, a former knight, but he's really important for a different reason. He took down an organization that trained children to be criminals, and once they were defeated, he adopted all those children. So he's the father of like half of the main characters, and even though his fighting is really done by episode 3, he's very influential throughout the whole series. Anyway, one of his children was one of Makio's old maids, and she returns to help them when everyone teams up to save Makio, even though it means working against the man who saved her. It's quite a dramatic rescue mission and battle. When Kangoji breaks Yotaro's first lance, his father appears, and Yotaro's father may just be the most powerful knight in this universe. He lends his son his lance, which is very picky about who wields it, and Yotaro is able to find the strength to defeat Kongoji and rescue Makio. May I remind you that we're only 3 episodes in? If they'd played their cards right, the writers had enough story for an entire show with just this first plot. And this is my biggest problem with N Masques. The writers didn't know how to play to their strengths. There's no doubt in my mind that they wanted to make something cute and lighthearted, when, with minimal effort, they could have made something heartfelt and psychological and just a little bit dark. They touch on all of these traits, but never really explore them. They spend a lot more focus introducing new characters to add to Makio's makeshift family. Introducing, mind you, not developing, and their story suffers for it. We jump from one dramatic plot to the next. Not 2 episodes later, Yotaro ends up fighting Yuriko, in an ironic twist to uphold the ideals that she instilled in him. This was another scene that had the potential to be a really powerful moment, but they barely even show the fight. Because this clearly wasn't what was important to the writers. It seemed to me like the story they really wanted to write were the more slice-of-life-like episodes where the characters all go to school or bond at the hot springs. And I'm not saying it's impossible for there to be a balance, just that this show didn't achieve that. They introduce so many characters, most of whom have some past connection to Yotaro, and that's all the development they really get. That's just not enough to get your audience really invested in what happens to them. There were some scenes when I couldn't even remember who was who. I mean, Yotaro's horse has more personality than most of the characters in this show. Even once it started to go downhill, there were things I liked about this anime. The action scenes were all over the top and fun. They don't really explore it, but there was just enough darkness and depth to get something kind of heartfelt if you read into it enough, and I really liked their use of the masks as their own sort of weapon to make the characters feel empowered to be whoever they wanted to be. As far as animation goes, the backgrounds were all colorful and well done. I wasn't crazy about the round, cutesy way they designed most of the characters, but I can live with that. I really liked the opening and ending themes, and the rest of the music was fitting throughout. Where N Masques really falls short is with its character development and world building. The knight's ranks and what it means to be a modern-day knight is never really explained. There's also the fact that all the villains are old friends or fellow knights. They don't really want to hurt our heroes, which minimizes the sense of danger and consequence. All in all, N Masques wasn't terrible. I was left with the impression that the writers accomplished what they set out to do, and perhaps my expectations were just a little too high. I don't see myself ever revisiting this series, but I can see why some might find it enjoyable. Thank you for watching.